I believe that most of us are under the illusion that we are independent thinkers, that my thoughts, what I believe, what I double down on, are the things that I have decided are what I believe in. Are you really an independent thinker? So I believe we like to believe that we are independent thinkers. But then if we begin to look at some simple things like our diet, most of us can barely control our thoughts about what we eat. So are you really truly an independent thinker if you can't think your way into eating properly? And could it be because we have somehow aligned with a line of thought that maybe it just doesn't matter this time? And so on and so forth until it matters.
Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dreams. Right now. Inspirational perspective. Open your mind to a better life. It's time to live a dream. Your purpose now. Inspirational perspective. Let's slay your goals.
Today we'll be talking about breaking mental chains, how to break mental chains, and the hidden forces that control your thinking. Another way to say the hidden forces that keep the chains intact is likely the other way to say this. And I'm going to start with a question. The thoughts that you have you ever considered whether or not those thoughts are really yours? Just any thought that you have, anything that comes to your mind, have you ever considered, like, is this thought really my thought? Is this sourced through me? And then, like, as you think about this, I think we all have to agree that maybe some are, but a good portion aren't. So then, if there are other thoughts that are mine, where are they coming from? And how resilient am I to those thoughts? So I want you to think about that. Then here's the other part. Then if every thought that I think isn't mine, then what is the source of the thoughts that aren't necessarily mine? Like, what's the source? Now, I do believe the Creator speaks to us. And there are thoughts that we have that go something like, don't do that. Right? And typically, those thoughts, well, they're not loud and forceful and dominating our psyche. In fact, you have to get quiet to really hear it. You have to be still to really hear it. You have to be intentional to really hear it. Because on the other side of that thought is, no, you should. And here are all the reasons they deserve your wrath. They deserve for you to do whatever it is that this thought is sourcing. So that's what I want to talk about today, like the source of these thoughts and how we can begin to pull our thoughts in a way that aligns with what it is we intend to create for our lives. Now, there are reasons, well, let's say, like if we go back to the source of thoughts, because I'm trying to open this thoughtfully. If we go back to the source of thoughts, then what can we consider some of these sources to be? Could one of the sources be the food you eat? Like, put that to the side for a minute. Think about it, but put that to the side for a minute. Could maybe another channel for a source of thoughts be the clothes you wear? So then let's slide that in somewhere as well. And by the way, I'm going to break this down throughout the course of the show. I'm just setting it up. What about your environment? What about your environment? I remember when I think I was about 19, 20 years old, and I shared a few shows ago some of the things I went through early on in my life, where I was working with a group of men at this, car wash / detail factory out in the northwest suburbs, very affluent area. And so we would be taking care of, people's, luxury vehicles for the most part, cleaning them up, making them look nice, things like that. And one of the gentlemen used to, take a break, and he would take tobacco out of this little tin foil, like this little tin thing, and make his own cigarettes. And we happened to have the same break time every day. What do you think that environment began to do to me? Watching this guy roll his own cigarettes. He's older than me, right? Watching him roll his own cigarettes day after day after day. How long do you think it was before I tried my first cigarette? And so when we think about environment, like before I started working there were thoughts that I never had to contend with. But then when my environment shifted, I began to struggle with the thought of maybe you should smoke too. Maybe it's not that bad. And by the way, it looked appetizing, the way he would put it in there. Now at this point in my life, being more settled, it's kind of like, what was I thinking? But I was young, I was impressionable, and I was in an environment where this was normalized. And so before you know it, he would roll too. Now, I did believe in the addictive nature of tobacco. I did. And so when I noticed that I would be waiting for the break, not for the break, but for the cigarette, I was like, I got to stop this. And thank God I did. But that was a thought too. Like, hey, if you don't stop, you might not be able to. That was a thought too. And so I had to nurse that thought to keep the chain of cigarettes from taking my life over. So, are your thoughts truly just yours? Or are thoughts influenced by everything around us, from the food, the clothes, the environment, the propaganda that shape our mindset? And is it possible that these things that we take into our bodies, we wear on our bodies, we listen to, whatever it may be, that are in our environment, are actually programming our minds without us even realizing it? Then you add media into it. I was having a conversation this Friday with someone who I believe is very intelligent. Like, I believe this individual is very intelligent. And I could hear them repeat something directly from the media. And I asked them, hey, think about this. Like, can you stop for a minute? Like, it's me and you. It's just me and you. And think about this. And he doubled down. And I said, hey, bro, like, listen to yourself. Listen, like it's just me and you. Listen to yourself. And he doubled down again. And I began to realize that I was trying to unravel something that had been repeated into his psyche far longer than I could say, slow down, think about it. Right? I probably would have to spend about 30 to 40 minutes with him just saying, slow down, let's think about this, to unravel what he heard repeatedly in 1 week that now is true to him. But on the outside, without me being exposed to that programming, I'm questioning it. Like, hey, hold on now. Like, does that make sense? So then, are your thoughts really yours? But here's the other part. If that can happen to someone who, and I still think he's very intelligent, but at the same time, programmable. So if anyone, even someone who is highly intelligent, can be programmed, then what programs are you running that may actually be counter to truth? Like real truth. And is there anything that has become so deeply programmed into you that you now believe is true, even though it isn't? The purpose of this show is to get you into your own mind. And in saying all that, there will still be people who say, my truth is my truth. This week, we're running a series of reels on social media about propaganda. The first one opened up with, why do we eat eggs and bacon for breakfast in the morning? And this is a good example of what we might believe is true. Someone would say, well, that's because that is the perfect breakfast. But then we also know, at the same time, many of us, that just isn't true. But because of the propaganda that was introduced in the early 1900s, this is something that someone else will hold as truth and, by the way, fight you on. If you come to them with facts and figures about why it's not true. So where might your programming, even now, have you fighting what you hear in the next 90 minutes? Like, just think about this. What if the way that you see yourself, your decisions and your beliefs were influenced more by external forces than your own free will? And what if I began to tell you that while you have volition and while you have free will, that your environment, the things you listen to, especially the things that you listen to repeatedly, are beginning to rob you of what was your free will. Now, I believe one of the reasons I'm taking today slow is because I believe that most of us are under the illusion that we are independent thinkers. Let me say it again. I believe that most of us are under the illusion that we are independent thinkers, that my thoughts, what I believe, what I double down on are the things that I have decided are what I believe in. So then the question is that really true? Are you really an independent thinker? Some time ago, I shared the quote with you all from Scott Fitzgerald. Like the mark of an intelligent person is the ability to hold two opposing thoughts in the mind at one time. I believe that's also the mark of independent thought, that there's something that I believe, and I've been now given information that is counter to that. And so, to ensure that my thoughts are mine, I am willing to pause and study both lines of thought to ensure that the line of thought that I land on is indeed the true line of thought that I should follow. And are there any examples where you are unwilling to do this in your life? So I believe we like to believe that we are independent thinkers. But then if we begin to look at some simple things, like our diet, most of us can barely control our thoughts about what we eat. So are you really truly an independent thinker if you can't think your way into eating properly? And by the way, most of us know what good eating should be. Yet we don't do it. And could it be because we have somehow aligned with a line of thought that maybe it just doesn't matter this time? And then the next time, it doesn't matter this time. And so on and so forth until it matters. And if we were truly independent thinkers, would we be shocked when it mattered? Or would we say, oh, the accumulation of how I thought about food has finally caught up with me? But more often than not, we receive the diagnosis in shock. How could it be me? How could this happen to me? All the time, we've been present as we ate the food we ate and did the things that we did that caused whatever it is we are now dealing with. How could it be me? There's something about our psyche that actually denies truth. Even when truth is front and center. And it comes down to small things. Last night, my wife and I had a short conversation about these stainless steel mugs she bought for Rain. The outside said, hand wash only. So what's the big deal? I don't know. They did tell us we should only hand wash it. There has to be a reason for that. Could be because of all the microplastics on the outside. Well, you don't want that in your dishwasher, do you? But here's the thing about truth, about mindset, about our thoughts. It doesn't matter. It's just this one time. It won't happen to me. And then here's the thing, right? Like, this is how we think about small things, and this is how it begins to influence our thoughts around big things. So we like to believe we're independent thinkers, but our thoughts are dominated by our choice of diet, our clothing, our environment, and the media we consume. It all programs our mind. Now, here's the problem with this. David McKay said that your thoughts are the architects of your destiny. So then if we dissect that quote, That means my thoughts, the thoughts that I accept, are the architect of the life that I am designing. Which means that if I'm not aware of my thoughts, or if I'm following thoughts that aren't leading me into the right place, I could be creating a destiny that I don't want to live. And I could be creating that destiny with my eyes wide open. So here's a question. If you changed your environment, if you changed your clothes, if you changed your diet, if you changed the things that you watch overnight, how quickly would you begin to think differently? Every Father's Day weekend, a group of men, we all go camping. And there's something about the ride down to the campground. It's about 4 hours long. We take our sons, and it's 4 hours long. And there's something about the ride down to the campground where you begin to mentally prepare for living in a very different way. At home, I can get up in the middle of the night and walk barefoot to the bathroom. It's warm. It's comfortable. But I know for the next few days that I won't have that opportunity. In fact, most of my bathroom situations will not be in the bathroom. It'll be outside, in the woods, in the element. And so that reality begins to transform my thinking about what is normal. In fact, normal shifts within a matter of hours by the time we hit the campground. Because if one of the brothers has to use the bathroom, they leave the campsite to go to the woods, that's normal. So everything begins to shift with the environment that we're in. Where am I going with this? Most of our mental constraints, most of the chains that we wear around our mind has more to do with the environment that we're in and that we introduce ourselves than we want to admit. When I went through ACA, which is the Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families, it's a 12-step program. And I went through this program to begin addressing some of my own family dysfunction, family trauma, etc. And the very first step is to accept that you are in denial. It's the very first step of the program. To actually accept that you have a high form of denial in your life. And you don't really get to step 2 until you're willing to admit this to yourself. That the way that you see the world, the things that you have done don't actually add up to the destiny that you intend to create for yourself. And there's reasons for that. But most importantly, the biggest reason for that is because we are not allowing, as they say in ACA, the higher power to parent us over and beyond the strategies that we've built from growing up. And we deny that we have these strategies in place because if you really admitted that you have these strategies in place, you would see the level of dysfunction in your own life. And what do I mean by strategies? The things you learned from your parents, the ways of being you learned from your parents, the ways of being you learned from any trauma that came around you. The strategies that you created that, by the way, may not actually align with who it is that you intend to be. But you easily justify and look over because you deny that it's even there. So what I want to do is I want to provide what I believe is an overview of the mental chains most of us deal with. And hopefully this is beginning to make sense. I believe the first of the mental chains that we believe, that we deal with, that we struggle with, is food. And food has a self-perpetuating way of actually making the change that cover our mind even stronger. Because the food that we eat impacts brain function. And so if you wonder why we can live in this almost like elusive delusion, I believe one of the reasons many of us are able to live in an elusive delusion is because of the food that we eat that actually impacts the brain's ability to function properly, which is how we believe lies. And case in point, one of the ways that we believe lies is in the very food that we're eating. We many times know it is not good for us, but because of whatever happens when we eat it, we quickly forget, like denial. Maybe it's so good that you just kind of, in that moment, think, too, that it's worth it. And that also is a form of denial, because is it really? That's number one, food and brain function. We're going to go through each of these. Number two is clothing. And the way clothing impacts self-perception. And what do I mean about clothing? Well, I did a show last year, How We Poison Ourselves, where I made it very clear that most of the clothes that we're wearing, unless they are organic cotton, are impacting the frequencies of our body. And not only that, but leaking poisons through the skin into our bloodstreams. But see, here's the thing. To further my point around mental constraints and chains on our mind, many people heard that show. Many people were alarmed by that show. And within 7 to 14 days, they went right back to wearing what they used to wear. How do I know that? I don't have to. I understand human behavior. That's how I know it. And if we really believed it, if we really accepted it, if we weren't in personal denial, we would have thrown away half of our wardrobes, because there is nothing worth being poisoned from the outside in. And when I say that, I believe you believe me. But do your actions actually follow the line of thought? And if they don't, that is a form of denial. Third, environment and mindset. Almost every religious book talks about an environment. Almost every cliche or fairy tale talks about environment. There are little sayings that we have, birds of a feather flock together, that even point to the power of environment. They say that your network is your net worth. That is another form of environment. Yet, knowing all these things, many of us still hang out with the folks we're most comfortable with. We push away the challenge. We push away the individual that challenges us, because we prefer a comfortable environment to an environment of growth. That, by the way, directly correlates to our mindset. And then fourth, propaganda. And how propaganda leads to a deeper denial in how we make our decisions. And propaganda says to you, it's okay. You can get away with just one more donut today. Don't count the grams of sugar in your diet. Even though they say 25 grams is more than enough in one day, who should be paying attention to that? Do what feels good. Do what tastes good. Satisfy yourself. Come on in. Purchase what you want and enjoy it. And then when we don't feel so good, when we're not moving so well, when we're not thinking clearly, when we feel fatigued. We're trying to figure out, what did I do wrong? What's going on with me? When it's really right within the decisions you make throughout the day that sometimes we forget. I forgot I had pancakes this morning. I forgot that hit 20 grams of sugar already with the syrup. And so I probably shouldn't have any other sweets for the day. But propaganda says, don't worry about that. Do what feels good. Eat what tastes good. What matters is this moment. Unfortunately, we'll still have to pay. So there's a quote that Heather Morgan has where she says, every time you eat or drink, you are either feeding disease or fighting it. Let me say it again. Every time that you eat or you drink, you are either feeding disease in your body or you are fighting it. Here's the other part. The first part of that is disease that is ever present. Now, why is it ever present? Because of the law of entropy. And the law of entropy states that everything is in breakdown. If I'm not building it, then it is breaking down. Right now, if you do not have a way that you build your body, that you build your health, then all you have to do is take your foot off the gas and it will go into breakdown. Or the only caveat to that is if you don't eat and you fast, and then your body begins to heal. But most of us, the parasites and the worms in our body won't let us get 6 hours without a meal. They'll start crying and whining and, oh, my head hurts, and I have to satisfy the leeches. And this is tough to hear, right? Because this is real, and most of us live in denial. So how is food used as a programming tool? Well, number one, food impacts your mental clarity. So if you're not mentally clear, then I can almost get anything past you. And so have a Coke, have a smile while I send you a few more lies. Because now you're not going to be as bright. You're not going to be able to catch it. It impacts mental clarity. Then it also impacts focus. And this is why we forget. I forgot I ate that for breakfast. I shouldn't have that for lunch. But if my mental clarity is already gone, then what happens is the chains of habit take over. But more than anything else, it impacts our emotional stability. And why is that important? Because our emotions impact our energy in motion. And your energy in motion is how you create your life. In fact, my Slayer Goals members know that the way we create goals is with emotion. So then, if I'm not emotionally stable because of the food I eat, it's likely that my goal-setting process is not stable either, because the goal-setting process is an emotional process. And so if I'm not in control of my emotional stability, it's likely I'm not in control of my goals. So 7 foods that are destroying your mind and memory right now. Number 1, sugary drinks and snacks. Number 1, sugary drinks and snacks. Sugar causes inflammation to the body. to the brain, and it also causes brain damage. Now, I remember when I was a child, and I think this is during the Reagan administration, so I'm dating myself, but they had this commercial on drugs. They were like, this is your brain, and they would drop an egg into a skillet, and then they would say, this is your brain on drugs, and then they would actually have that egg, cooking on the skillet, right? They could very easily run the same commercial and say, this is your brain. Drop the egg. This is your brain on sugar. And fry that same egg. Because that's exactly how it works. In fact, if you look at a chart of the addictive qualities of cocaine in contrast to sugar, sugar wins. Sugar beats out almost every hard drug. It is, in my mind, the most dangerous white powder that you can mess with. And we all own it. We are all on it. So, number one, sugary drinks and snacks. I can't tell you the last time I had a soda. And it's for this reason. Like when I see people pop up like a Pepsi or something, it just makes my heart drop. It's like, because I understand what it's about to do to their brain. Number two, instant noodles and refined carbs. Man, I do hope that at this point in our lives, we've left the ramen noodles alone. I really do. Any instant noodle, I hope that you've left the instant mac and cheese alone. Any instant noodle is tearing you up. It is giving you insulin spikes, and it's also creating cognitive fog. Like your body's got to process that. That energy has to go somewhere. Instant noodles and refined carbs. What is a refined carb? It's a processed carb. It's typically any carb that comes in a box. Any carb that comes in a box. Number three, processed meat. Processed meat comes with sodium, high sodium, preservatives, and nitrates. And nitrates are cancer causing. They are carcinogens. And so right now, somebody might be listening to me as they go into the refrigerator and pull out the pack of bacon. They're taking the bacon off one by one. They might even be smiling to themselves until they hear my voice say this as they put the bacon on the griddle. I used to put it on the George Foreman griddle because I wanted to be healthy. Like, think about that as an oxymoron, right? Used to, and I say used to was like years and years ago. I haven't had bacon, man. I would say almost in 10 years. I think almost more than that. But anyway, when I had it, I used to have it. But what it impacts is sodium, high amount of preservatives, nitrates that are cancer causing, and this also leads to cognitive decline. See, here's the thing. My purpose is to help myself and others live the best life possible. And when I'm working with people or interacting with people and noticing how difficult it is for them to focus, how difficult it is for them to do what they say they want to do, like my mind starts to, like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? Why is it that I can say, Linnell, we're going to do X, Y, and Z on Saturday, and I can get it done. And by the way, there's resistance, but I can get it done. But someone has been going through, trying to get through the same three things for years, and they can't do it. And right now, I'm giving you the reasons why. Like, these are changes, thank God. Like, not from a place of superiority, from a place of humility. These are changes that the Creator supported me in making. And they matter. They really do matter. Processed meats. like meats in the package, man. Like if they already got it, all you got to do is throw it on. Whew. Number 4, fried foods. This is a tough one. Fried food is good. I can attest that it tastes good going down. But on the other side, it increases the trans fats in your body and it attributes to memory loss. This is why folks be sitting at the computer like, where was I going? What was I about to do? Well, what did you have for lunch? Number 5, artificial sweeteners. When you look at number 1 and number 5, so sugar is number 1. Let me tell you something. I would rather you mess with the white refined stuff than to mess with the artificial stuff. I would like if you know how to say if you're going to do it. If you're going to sweeten your coffee, then sweeten your coffee. Right now, maybe, use brown sugar or agave or something, but, like, man, please don't put the other stuff. I don't want to put the brands out there, but the stevias and what's the other one in the pink package that people mess with? Like, I forget the name of it, but man, like, please don't put that in there. If there's anything that leads directly to dementia and long time brain function impairment, it is that. And by the way, it's in your diet sodas. The reason the diet soda can say 0 in terms of calories and sugar is because it's an artificial sweetener that basically says, well, if we don't increase your waistline, we'll take your brain cells. Number 6. Now, when I say number 6, I just want, remember that I said the first step in the ACA process is admitting that you are in denial, right? Because when I say number 6, most folks are going to say, well, I don't have that much. I don't do it that much, right? Alcohol. Long-term memory loss and cognitive damage. And see, here's the thing. Because it's not hitting you right away, it's like, well, it's fine. It's okay. It's, when you really think about it, it's really poison in the bottle. It's really poison in the bottle. And not only does it hurt you long term, but for many of us, it has had significant impacts on our short term lives. Decisions we've made. Like, you can just rock with me for a second. And I love you. I do. And the thing about alcohol, the thing about all these things is that they are addictive. So the body says, this is what I desire. And until you can fight that thing off, until you can kill those parasites and kill those worms and kill the things in your body that are feasting on these things, until you kill that, you'll never really be at a full independent state. And so you will feel beholden to this appetite that, by the way, is not yours. I remember the first time I had alcohol. The very first time I had alcohol, I was at a family function. My uncles were sitting around the table. One of my uncles used to always smoke a cigar, always had a cigar in his mouth. They were sitting around the table, and they were pouring. It was a hot summer day, and they were pouring these beers into these cups, and they were throwing them back. It looked so appetizing. My uncle looked at me, my mom's brother. He looked around for my mother first. Where Niecy at? She ain't here. He said, boy, you want some of this, don't you? I said, yeah. Had a smile on my face. He says, well, come on over here. I'm going to do your mama a favor. And he did, by the way. He did do her a favor. He said, come on over here. He poured a little bit into a cup for me. He said, now, if I pour this in the cup, don't waste my beer. Knock it back. I'm not going to waste it. And I'm looking around because I know my mama came out. We both would have been in trouble. And I took a sip of that. And And they all started laughing. And they said, yeah, that's why your mama tell you not to drink. And it did something. It was like, that was horrible. Now, I believe that all of us, when we had our first taste of alcohol, all had the very same reaction. Like, this is not good. So then why is it good today? Like, why has it become an acquired taste today? Is that natural? They say out of the mouth of babes, you give it to a baby, they will say that's nasty. So did it stop being nasty, or are we in denial? And not just denial, but has the propaganda, has our environment, have all the things that impact how we think and the awareness that we have mess with us to the point where now we believe that something that used to be nasty is actually good. In fact, I need it. That's number 6. Number 7, trans fats and processed foods. You remember when they sold margarine to us like it was healthy? Propaganda. And see, here's the thing. In the first hour, I talked about how you can bring truth to somebody. And because of the propaganda that they've been programmed with, they will fight you on that truth. There was a time where, because doctors said margarine was better than butter, that people fought for margarine. And now we understand that it not only impacts brain health, but it impacts cellular health, heart health, artery health. I mean, you go down the list of things that these fats that the body can't process do. So 7 foods destroying your memory, destroying your mind, that you should cut right away. Sugary drinks, instant and refined carbs, processed meats, fried foods, artificial sweeteners, alcohol, and last but not least, trans fat and processed foods. How is it not illegal to sell some of this stuff? Because of propaganda. Because of propaganda. If right now I put something together that is known to slowly kill a human being, but I don't have FDA approval, I would go to jail. But if I get FDA approval, I can make money. Isn't that fascinating? Propaganda. Propaganda. Bethany Frankel said, your diet is a bank account. Good food choices are a good investment. So, here's a question for reflection. Are your food choices keeping you mentally sharp or creating fog? Simple. This is a simple, like, if I do this, will it keep me mentally sharp or will it create fog? Period. Here's the other thing about food. There's an emotional connection with food, which is part of the manipulation. So the cycle of emotional eating that many of us go through is causing our mental clarity, and the lack of mental clarity is causing the emotional eating. So we're in a vicious cycle that is basically putting our health into a tailspin. My emotional eating reduces my mental clarity. My lack of mental clarity increases my emotional instability, which causes me to need to eat again. And think about it. How many times have you actually justified what you put in your mouth because you literally told yourself it would make you feel better? But it doesn't. Like, isn't that the highest form of denial? Like, I deserve this because right now I don't feel good, and if I eat this, I will feel better. Really? Like, how is that true? And then, by the way, you do, like, there's a euphoria that comes over you, but that's no different than if you were on drugs. It's no different. And by the way, while you're having your sweet snack, if you see somebody leaning on the street, you go, oh, Lord bless them. God help them. And you're, in some ways, in a very similar position. In fact, some of these addicts outlive us. But the reason that we stay in the cycle is because marketing and culture push unhealthy food that impact cognitive function. And there's a part of us that believes that if it's marketed, it must be okay, because that's propaganda. And we forget that the gigantic profit-driven food industry that is basically owned by the pharmaceutical industry is selling food that weakens your thinking and weakens your health, so you eventually need their pills and their products to just get by. As I'm saying this, I feel like I'm in a dystopian film. And like this is fiction. And I'm the character that's speaking into the people. And the people are like, we don't know if we believe them. Because that's how it feels when you say, like, it feels like it has to be a dream for this to be true, but it's true. If you do not control what you eat, someone else will, and they will do it to fill their pockets with money. This week, I had to travel, and I was sitting next to a doctor that happens to be connected to one of these government agencies. And I'm sitting on the plane, stewardess comes, what do you want to have to eat? They had a veggie bowl, and they had a chicken enchilada. So the gentleman next to me, the doctor, he asked so many questions. He says, typically I don't eat plain food, but it's been a while since I had a meal. We had struck up a conversation, and he was telling me about what he did. And I didn't say much about what I did. I was just shooting questions, because I'm like, so you work for one of these government agencies, and you're a doctor, huh? But here's the interesting thing. He had lots of questions about the food. Hey, is the veggie salad organic? Oh, yes, it is, she said. Where does the pesto sauce come from? Everything we have is sourced, sir. It's okay. So we both get the veggie salad. They have a little cheesecake on the side. And I noticed that he ate exactly the way I ate. We ate the vegetables. We left the carbs and the sweets. And so the same guy that likely has approved most of the food is being very discriminate about what he eats. His partner, who was on the other side, didn't eat a thing and looked at him and said, I can't believe you ate that. Had me questioning, like, should I eat the salad? What do they know that I don't know? What's one food you can eliminate today that you know would increase your mental clarity, that might just give you a better grasp on the life you intend to live? There is a powerful influence of propaganda on how you think. Your social media feed, the news you watch, the advertising that comes across your screen shape your beliefs without you even realizing it. And then there's the art of repetition. If they say something enough times, people will accept it as the truth. Let me give you one that always kind of makes me smile. Is it Michelob Ultra that's only 64 carbs? Is that the one? And they run these commercials. And they run the commercials because the person that drinks Michelob Ultra is like super healthy, by the way, right? Like they're lean and they're like, this is how my life goes. So they're active. They wake up in the morning, they're running, they're with their friends, and everybody's healthy and trim and toned and all that. And when I want to drink, this is what I drink. And I'm like, boy, if that ain't the biggest. I can promise you. Like, you get where I'm going? Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Propaganda. Because guess who's drinking that? Not the fit and tone folks. It's the person that's saying, well, I know I shouldn't do it. Because you shouldn't do it. But the art of repetition, they show it to you enough times, you start to believe like, oh man, this is the beer that healthy people drink. And it's like healthy people don't drink beer. But we start to believe these things. Then you have like these political and corporate agendas that are disguised as entertainment. So if they don't get you with the commercial, they'll get you with the sitcom. Because now the actor who is, healthy and muscular will be sitting down having a beer or sitting down throwing back a drink. And we go, well, look at him. He looks amazing. Surely, can't hurt that bad if he's doing it. And I'm like, yeah, but the shot was really apple juice. It's an illusion. As a matter of fact, 50 Cent has admitted that when he first started rapping and he would come on stage with a glass that looked like it was Hennessy or some type of cognac, that every time it was apple juice. He was like, I never drank during the show. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe 50 Cent drinks at all. But see, it's the entertainment. And the most powerful weapon in the world is not the gun, it's misinformation. It's misperception. Because we'll hang on those things and say, well, if he can drink that and be so successful, so can I. But he's not drinking it. And the propaganda around consumption just doesn't come to what we eat. Like then we can switch to what we wear. Because fashion trends, included with food choices, they begin to basically create these aspirational lifestyles that are heavily manufactured. And so I need to drink this drink and wear this plastic if I'm going to fit in. And then the crazy part is we're paying more for the luxury brands that actually hurt our health. The world will continually try to tell you who you are until you decide for yourself. The world will continually try to tell you who you are until you decide for yourself. And so once again, if your thoughts aren't your own, who planted them? How would you think if you went on a media fast? How would it change your mind? How would it change your eating? How would it change how you move? Most of us, our identities have been shaped outside of us, which is why you feel the way you do about you. If you are worthy because you breathe, if you are a creation of God, if you're a child of God, then why would you feel like you're not worthy? Why would you feel like you're not enough? The only reason you would feel that way is if there's something measuring you outside of the standard of the Creator. And The idea of propaganda, the idea of media is that you never measure up. So you have to continue to buy. You have to continue to consume so you can stay on par. So how do we escape these mental chains? I think one of the most powerful things about Slay Your Goals is not just the training, it's the environment. It's the frequency. It's the vibration of the group where you come, you get some level of accountability, you get some level of training that supports you with how you move forward. The role of surroundings is to shape ambition. The role of your surroundings is to shape your creativity. The role of your surroundings is to support your thought patterns, but more importantly, to support your vibration and your frequency. The cities that we live in, they influence our energy, motivation, and mental clarity. I can guarantee you, we just had daylight savings time. We lost an hour last night. But now people are going to wake up, the sun's up. They're going to be like, I feel so much better. When they get off work, the sun's up. Oh my God. Like, you're going to see moods. I promise you, once people get past the sleep lag, you're going to see mood shift. Environment. The sun. Oh, they come out of work, now it's not dark. Oh my goodness. I feel so much better. I feel good. I feel some men will notice that their spouse have little, she's got a little bounce in her step now. Well, what happened to you? Like, oh, it's just the sun, bro. It's just the environment. You might look at him and say, what happened to him? He seems in a better mood. It's just the environment. If that matters, then how much does it matter in terms of the vibe of the people that you're around? The vibe of the people that you spend time with. Jim Rohn said you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The people you spend time with, do they deal with mental clutter? Do they deal with mental noise? Are they consumed by digital distractions? Do they deal with high stress? Or are they peaceful? Do they like being in nature? Are they dealing with poverty? Or do they have an abundance mindset? It's interesting. You guys know I'm diving into AI. At some point, we'll get back on that subject, but we got to deal with our minds first. And I'm a part of this mastermind. There was a young lady, a sister in the group. There's only a few of us. And she's big into AI. And so I was meeting with this mastermind group. I was excited to talk to her. After just a moment of talking, I realized she had a scarcity mindset. She wasn't willing to trade ideas. Her ideas were hers. And I was like, oh, okay. You think that she's going to be in my circle with a scarcity mindset? Nah. It's like, oh, you know what? My wife is like, how'd it go? I was like, nah, that ain't it. Right? That's not it. That's, no. Whatever she knows, and that's fine. But she didn't have that spirit of abundance. Let's share, let's grow. I don't need to be around that. So how do we reprogram our mind? How do we begin to escape external programming? Number 1, curate your physical space for mental clarity. To start the year off, I cleaned everything out of my office. And I had to really battle this one because it felt like, man, you got so much to do. Like, is this a waste of time? But I was like, I've been working in this office since 2017. You just kind of, you gather things. And it was this, things had gathered. And we've been talking about the vacuum principle on the air. We've been talking about the vacuum principle in Slay Your Goals. I've been talking about the vacuum principle with my clients and I'm looking around and I'm like, some things need to get vacuumed. So I dedicated myself to it. Assistant came over. We like just shred this, shred that, get rid of that. This is like, now when I walk in, man, whew, it's just like it's clear, it's clean. Is it time to curate, update your physical space? Number 2, is it time to upgrade yourself by upgrading your diet? Like we sometimes we want to go through an upgrade, but we don't want to go through the upgrade. Like, like when the phone upgrades, you got to shut it down. Like you got to press pause. Like in my mind, like the first quarter detox we did with the Slayer goals, like that's shut it down. Like press pause. Reboot the diet. Then you get to upgrade. When I tell you, and we grown, I'm intentional all the way down to my drawers. I mean, and then I just learned from somebody, they were like, well, do your underwear have dye? I'm like, no, don't tell me. They're like, yeah, the dye gets into your bloodstream. I'm like, really? Well, tell me. And see, here's the thing. Here's what happens for some of us. We go, see, that's why I don't do it at all. But for me, it's like, I want to know, because then that's the next step. One of the things we're going to talk about going into the remainder of the month is how to go to the next level. Part of how you go to the next level is you say, hey, this level might not be everything, but I'm going to take this step because it gets me to the next step. And then I'll learn something new. I said, okay, so now I be thoughtful about the dye. She's like, yeah, and don't think just white, because the white is bleached. And so it has the bleach in it. So you got to, go for something. She's like, your underwear might look dingy because there's no dyes. It doesn't matter how it looks, right? See, propaganda would say, well, no, I need to, it's like, well, it's just me and my wife. Like, who cares, right? So that's the next step. All right, how do we, I went into my son's drawers, took out all the polyester stuff and set them up. But now I'm like, oh, I got dye. It's okay. We'll just go to the next level. And when I'm saying that, by the way, I'm talking about cotton, so we moved to cotton. And the reason we moved to cotton, if you missed the how we poison ourselves, the reason we moved to cotton is because cotton matches the body's frequency. One of the reasons many of us are so tired and so exhausted is because we're wearing clothes with low frequencies. And by the way, we're wearing clothes with low frequencies because they're manufacturing them overnight with plastics and things like that, where the body can't breathe. It's taking in all types of chemicals, all types of things. You're like, well, I got it for free $99, Linnell. And it's like, well, yeah, you got it for free $99 for a reason. You better get off Temu. You better leave it alone. You better stop purchasing your stuff off Alibaba. You better leave Amazon alone. Go ahead and spend a little money and get your cotton. Choose clothes that will empower you. Choose clothes that will empower you. Number 4, limit the propaganda. Either you are being influenced by something else or you're influencing yourself. You can't have it both ways. Can you go a day without media? Like we're talking about the physical fast. Maybe you need a mental fast. What is it for you? But can you go a day without media? Can you go a day with your own thoughts? Can you go a day driving in silence? Can you go a day just listening out for the voice of God? Number 5, surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow. This one here, man, we like to be comfortable. some of us, we're around people who are disingenuous and you know it. But you like when they tell you something. Girl, you look good. Really? And the reason you got to say really is because you know they're disingenuous. You might even feel like when you walk away, they're laughing at you. So why do you go? Why do you feel like you need to be accepted by them? I think many of us forget that we're princes and princesses of the King. Like he will create new spaces for you to grow in. But often you have to leave the space that you're in. One of the things we're doing is this year is the first time that the Slayer Gold members are meeting in person. And one of the reasons I think is so important is for this one right here, surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to grow. Surrounding yourself with people who have a similar vibration. Surrounding yourself with people who have a similar frequency. Right now, there might be a Slayer Goals member who's wrestling with the idea, should I fly in? Yes, you should. Because there's nothing more powerful than completely flipping your frequency based on who you're around, based on who you be with, based on the spaces that you're in. There's no better investment that you can make. One of the things I love about Ghana is that the bus has a frequency. The bus has a vibe. And people start creating friendships that last a lifetime. It's the last time we're going. Last time that I'm leading a trip this year. If you're interested, go to LinellHarris.com where you can sign up. Here's the last piece. You have the power of conscious choice. If you are willing to unplug, this will give you the opportunity to shape a stronger mindset. Who is it that you intend to be? What is it that you intend to create? Is that more important to you than anything else? I have a challenge for you. For the next week, what's one thing that you know you can change about your food, change about your clothing, and change about your environment, and change about your media inputs that will shift your thinking? 4 places to look. In the next week, the next 7 days, what's one thing that you'll change about the food you take in? Maybe you'll say, you know what, Linnell, you're right. I'm going to cut sugar this week. See how I feel. And here's the thing. I can guarantee you will see results. I can guarantee you. I'm going to change one thing about the food. One thing about your clothes. Maybe you'll say, I'm going to be more thoughtful about my underwear too. Maybe you say, I don't even own anything that's cotton. But maybe that's how you spend your time today. What about your environment? Who are the people you're around? Maybe it's time for you to go meet at work. Maybe instead of going with the same lunch group, you have lunch by yourself and you read. How would you feel? How would you feel about yourself? Your media. What if you put yourself on a different media diet? Like sometimes it's not even about unplugging. Sometimes it's really about what are you plugged into? Well, then I don't know if I can go a whole week without media. Okay, then plug into something different. You don't understand. My commute is long. I don't know if I could just drive without listening to something. Then listen to something different. Hey, you can go to Linnell Harris on YouTube, and there's years of content. Years of content. What do you choose to listen to? What's one thing in each of those categories that you can shift? I start the show saying most of us don't have control of our minds. And most of us don't have control over what we think. So the question is, will you take back control? Like, will you take back control? Your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. It's Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. Like, what will you start today? End of the show, it'll be 9 a.m. It's still morning. You can still make a decision on your breakfast, on your food. You can still make a decision on what you put on. Or you say, well, let me change this. You can still make a decision on the environment. Beginning of the week, maybe you need to make a phone call and say, you know what? I won't be there. Or the other way around, I will be there. You can still make a decision on being a part of Slay Your Goals. We meet in 30 minutes. You can go to the website and join and catch the email in 5 minutes. SlayYourGoals.com. You can make a decision on your media. Say, man, I started with listening to Inspirational Perspective. This is going to be the tone for the entire week. You just test it. You test it and see how you come out of these 7 days. And you tell me if you want to go back. For everything that you intend to create, there's a sacrifice. But see, here's the other part of it. With discipline, you step into a new level of freedom. With randomness, you stay encaged. It's up to you. Thank you for watching Inspirational Perspective. If you love this show and you want to see more content like this, you can go right here. And if you like this subject and you want to see much more content that we have available for you, just click the button here. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the show live, 7 a.m. every Sunday morning on WBON Radio, or you can catch it right here on YouTube or Facebook.com/Coach Linnell Harris. Be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so we can get more content just like this to you.